Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3, the alt version of the SS Invasion of Britain. I hope we're all excited for conquering the English. Something that hasn't been done since since 1688. That was the last time the English were conquered. We're in 1688. Or was in 1688, I think would be the more correct English. People forget the 1688 and keep going back to 1066. 1066 is good World War II propaganda, but 1688, time England was conquered. Yeah, he'll do. We get transport, we'll get him across there. Now, I think I have another really cool maybe it already got shifted over. Oh, maybe it's already over there. It didn't happen. Oh well. Looking for a Gross Deutschland Corps HQ. No need for that. Cruiser fire control. Good. And it's grayed out. Fine. And spotting advance. It's down in Navy training. Naval training. Let's get some more of these 44 models. Done. Finland just ended all of our trade. What I want to do is these guys are retreating down to here, but they keep getting, these guys, the British keep moving a ship around or something that keeps us from making it to Newport in time. So either we need to make it there, cut there, retreat off with our ship. Yeah, they're a bit slower. Come on, Italy, keep sending in supplies. We need more supplies. Okay, yes, excellent. We want that. And the basic monthly, I sort of forgot about. Third uprising. Okay, well, they got there. So let's. Oh shoot! I had them retreat off of where they were all already battling. Okay, well, you go there. You battling? Yes, you're battling. You come up here and take that. How are we doing out in India here? better. Everybody. Well, I think we should come over to here. Good. Hello, Arno. How you doing? Kicking some butt in India there. Oh, they're already there, so you help out too. And what we're going to do here is join these two units. That way this heavy Panzerabteilung under Panzer Meyer will have commando support. Oh, I'm doing good. Just having fun playing here. I really like to live stream what I'm going to be eventually putting up on YouTube. It sort of does two things. Yeah, it gets me to be able to talk to you guys directly. That's really cool for me, at least. Oh, good. They finally took that. So now, can you? Okay, well, cool. So I can talk to you directly while making, and not just type back at you afterwards. But I know many people, most people, can't make it to the live stream. Just wrong time of day where they're part of the world or whatever else. Uh-oh. Just lost an HQ. Okay. Shattered. I was talking about earlier. Okay, well, we're gonna stop that attack. It's a jerk. Okay, now. Which is a pain. Well, it's not that far away. You come over here. You patrol this region here. Got a lot of air cover now. Sweden! Energy, sure. And just always keep pushing forward. Yeah, you guys get across that river there. Excuse me. Oh, this unit's gonna have a bit of problems. Ah, yes. Sturmgeschützabteilung 2000. I know I've covered this in the main series, so I won't go into too detail. But German, very good improvisation here, so. He could be useful in Britain, so let's send him up there. Becker can get into the field and out of the workshops. Yes, you may have some rare material. How are we doing in Africa? I've sort of been neglecting this. I know. Yeah, above the African coast. Now, they're at war with Germany. Libya. Quite honestly, I didn't notice before. Who notices Liberia? Yes, Arno, I do puppet countries. Like just recently I puppeted Turkey and Iran. So, it's the reason I don't. I do it on a limited basis. I'm not doing it Saudi Arabia particularly because I want to directly control this oil and get the oil. So that's why I didn't there. I really don't need the resources in Turkey right now. And if I just occupied it, annexed it, I would have to, garrison it. Obviously, I still sort of haven't cleaned up after myself here, is basically what this is. And a lot of these units here in the regular series, I don't need them in Britain now. I haven't really decided in the regular series that playing whether these units are going to head back east for an invasion of the Soviet Union or head a bit more west to go after the United States and Brazil and such like that. So I haven't decided yet, so that's just why they're sort of remaining there. But so it's and so I guess I'm puppeting Turkey like that. So I like to do that. Now I would prefer, if I'm not going to own the country directly, I would prefer to do like with Portugal and Spain here, is to do it diplomatically. So this way their armies are intact. I haven't like crushed a bunch of their armies so that they don't have to rebuild them, so they're stronger as my ally. So I prefer that over puppeting, but will do so. So it varies as to which I do and why. Okay, they're coming to their rescue. Leave one out. Okay. Almost there to take them down. Come here. They're doing well. Den Huber's doing all right up there. Okay, well, Yes, yes, we're coming up here to deal with you. And they're getting that support. Good. So they'll kick their butts in Hyderabad now. User anti-air control systems have advanced. Good. And it's grayed out. Good, fine. Didn't want to be pushing too far ahead. And folding wings for our carrier base aircraft now. That is good. That'll help. We still have one more. All them, that. Motorized support units will move faster, attack quicker, overrun their enemies more. I think these guys will be enough. We're going after. Fucking wall. Well, now that we have actual proper units, including Sepp Dietrich's unit with his battle commander there. Sepp Dietrich was an alright divisional commander. Once he was promoted out of his skill set to higher level command, he did not do well. He was originally, what, an army sergeant or something? Okay, well, we've fought enough naval battles now to have a veteran navy, which is good. Ooh, we need to do this, which I think we will lose. I forgot to do this because it didn't there. National recruiting policy. Let's set this. We're going to do balanced approach. So we should get an event to lose that, or that will really hurt us. Twin engine fighter prototype. Oh, this one, of course. And that's grayed out. So a lot of 43s. We're doing those. Researching that's good. Do the help out. Well, Arno, you're right when it comes to that was the last battle that put us over. So we're also battling the air carriers. I counted the provinces in this map here and in the map of Hearts of Iron 4. And there is approximately double the, I forget the exact number, but there's approximately double the number of provinces, without talking about some of these sort of ones that we can't actually sort of get our zero, you know, or no infrastructure, can't really go into. But it was just, of the mainland provinces, there's double the number of provinces here as in Hearts of Iron 4. And if you look at what a division, because this is supposed to be this and 4 are supposed to be division size scale of operations. I know I've not played 1 or 2, but you would create big, you would sort of, in creating corps or armies, they would all be like in EU, all merged into one sort of single unit stack. So that's then a corps scale or a army scale, depending on how you want to look at it, map. So it should have less provinces, but this is about roughly, and you're absolutely right that this is better here, roughly about what a division can control. Some of these might be a little small in some cases. Sometimes that's just because the geography sort of defines that it would be a good place to draw some of these maps here. So you're right about that this map in the theaters of operation is better. But if you come down to, and I'm not talking air zones and some of that other in the state, but especially you come down to here and start looking at this map compared to 4. 4 is better. 4 is better on in that it has more provinces in some of these areas, because some of these areas have sort of, well, this isn't so bad, but you can look at Africa. This is terrible. Look at that. Look at this province. Huge, gigantic, empty spaces. So, you can see it's better. This is just huge. So, in this stuff, Hearts of Iron 4 does better. Now, I don't like, and I've come to more and more dislike, I don't know if quite to hate, but the state mechanic that they have in 4. I prefer everything on the province. Now, I think some of the reasons they went down to fewer provinces is because the AI is having problems, quite honestly. I haven't been told that. No one said that to me in any of my various contacts with them, but I do believe it's an AI question. I think the AI in Hearts of Iron 4 doesn't know what to do with itself. It wants to create World War I style front lines in which every province is covered, every province is equally covered. One division in every single place, and move it out. And it doesn't really seem to take terrain into effect in that, oh, well, we might want to put 2 divisions here because this is open, flat, and whether that counts as any river defense or not or something, but open, flat, and hard to get through. But hey, we can only do with just 1 division here because we're behind the river and we're in forests. So since the AI doesn't do that well, this is why I think part of their reason for going to a map with fewer provinces. Now, they've sort of overdone the provinces, in my opinion, too many in some of these lost wilderness places in Russia. So it's unnecessary. If it doesn't, hurt anything, it's fine. But I do think for some elements of the engine, just simply there's the more sheer number of more provinces you stick on it, the more it clogs things up. Yes, and you're absolutely right about that, Arno, in the Netherlands there. Now, one thing Podcat did say, and I do agree with, is that we're not talking streams. What I call a river here in California. California is a very dry place. What I call a river here, most people would call a brook or just some little minor water thing, a stream or something minor. But what a stream in a wetter environment is, or a river in a wetter environment is something that is pretty damn wide. It's not just something that needs one of the simple sort of like modern tank launched armored bridges, that you just drop in and roll over, that's 30 feet wide. You're talking a real sort of, maybe smaller than the Rhine River, but you're talking a major river. And Podcat wanted all the provinces here to, like Sudan, to be clear which borders of the province has a river defense. So I can see, and again, I'd have to look at both maps and look at a real world map. I can see that this could get a bit confusing, and maybe if you can't, make reasonable provinces here, having both, all three of these rivers or whatever on the map all at once, maybe, again, I'd have to look at it, maybe justified in getting it down. So instead of, because, this province, if you're coming from here, from Eindhoven to Hertzgebich, whatever, sorry, my Dutch. I've heard Eindhoven pronounced, and I've heard Venlo, where we have an event that happens. But you're coming from here. Does this province with the river here, does it get river defense qualifications or not? It shouldn't if you're coming from Nijmegen over to here, because you're just rolling down between the rivers. So that's sort of why they've sort of changed some of the stuff. So I agree with some of the mechanics that they're doing. So I agree with that idea that these major rivers, and the only places where you really have that is, well, I don't even have that on the map, have that as a problem. And if you notice, for Paris, there's sort of Paris, and then they sort of have this other province south of Paris on the Hearts of Iron 4 map, sort of Versailles type thing. But it's urban, because obviously the Seine comes through the middle of Paris. Again, they haven't, because most all of you know, I'm in the beta, so I can't tell you anything I hear in the beta, but I can tell you things that are maybe I later hear outside, but I can say if I haven't heard it, I'm sort of guessing, because then obviously I'm not giving away any inside information. I'm just based on my educated guesses. I'm guessing the way that they looked at this is, well, Paris has a river in it, but we're really working to do it, so they just turned Paris into functionally two provinces, but dumped all of the capital elements into one side, and whether whether you get a defense or not from the river. So that's sort of their river, so instead of having these let's match real world map squigglies, that's why they moved them to the borders of the provinces, and that I like. Master Payne, how you doing? Okay, for me, I generally play, this is an alt history sort of thing that we're doing here, compared to my long-term Master Payne. If you know my channel over on YouTube, gamer_1745. Generally, what I do is play historically as I would in a historical situation, meaning I don't make the same mistakes Hitler made or whoever made when I play, but I don't do wacky unrealistic things, because you'll notice like Switzerland and Sweden are still independent, so I haven't just invaded them to invade them, but like, and in this game we have Spain and Portugal, and they got in diplomatically. So, things go off the history books, and I have not done Case Anton to take the rest of Vichy. We drove the Americans out here. So it's sort of a modified history thing, instead of like doggedly right on the history. And I normally start the war because, I don't know how much you've read, but Hitler did not intend the war to start in 1939. He intended to start a war with Poland, but he had no intentions of starting a war with Britain. So I normally wait till 1940 summer, crush Poland, and then, again, you can look at, because I'm, long series here, turning around within 1940, come back and crushing France and everything like that. So it's sort of a mix, a history, or a historically plausible playthrough of World War II is how I look at it. This is a sort of what I'm calling an alt series, alternative to the main one that Italy had come in here landed. You can see some of their troops here under the counter there. Landed and took that, and I was able to come in and reinforce them, and now crushing Britain. So again, Master Payne, if you want to watch some more Hearts of Iron than just this live stream, definitely check out my YouTube channel. We are obviously in 1944 in this game, and you can watch from the beginning, and it'll take you a while. And of course, if you haven't anybody up there watching on Twitch, please follow my channel there. Just love to see you back when I do stream historical World War II type games, often Hearts of Iron. Yeah, let's support that attack. Okay, good. We've cleaned up that part of... Yeah, the, well, at least what Hitler told, I guess, Reeder, the head of the Kriegsmarine, that the war, don't worry, was one of his basic comments that somebody reported, I forget where I read it. Don't worry, we're not going to be starting the war until 1942. I think that's what he's close to what he said, obviously in German and whatever. And that was regarding the naval buildup. Reeder was looking in, it was either late 39 or late 38 or early 39, and they were looking at the buildup of the Navy, and Hitler was like, don't worry, the war is going to start in 42, if I remember that correctly. So that was Hitler's plan, or when he's saying the war with Britain and France. He wanted a training war, Hitler did. Hitler saw what Mussolini did in Ethiopia and sent his army, you know, that Mussolini sent his army in and sort of got a training war, beat up on some natives, and took Ethiopia. And actually it was a rather harder fight than it should have been, even for the Italians, but that's what happened there. And Hitler wanted a similar war, and his war that he wanted was with Czechoslovakia. He really wanted a war with Czechoslovakia. But he didn't, and knew in 38, knew that he was unprepared, including the idea that the West Wall was far from complete. And, you know, they kept, you know, the West Wall goes all the way up to here, people, if you don't realize that. And it happens with the TRE version of building the West Wall. It's not just facing France. Hitler went all the way up to the basically the edge of the Rhine up here, making the West Wall. And so that was far from complete. He knew his army, his air force was not ready for a war with France or Britain. And this is, I think, is where the 38 quote about don't worry about the war, it's happening in 42, or maybe you say 43. It's right around in that time was the plan, was the schedule. But he needed to convince the Western powers, or justify, to use a paradox, because you justify wars now in Hearts of Iron 4, but in EU or Crusader Kings or whatever. He needed to justify his war with Czechoslovakia, to keep them out, to say this is a just war. The bad guys are really the Czechs, because they're just so badly harming the Sudeten Germans. They weren't. It was propaganda, but with a lot of Sudeten support, they made it sound good in the press and the papers. So it was believable propaganda, shall we say. And so Hitler did this job. Now what happened was he didn't get his war because Chamberlain not only gave in, but convinced the Czechs not to fight. And so this pissed Hitler off. Sorry about that. Hitler, wanted his war, didn't want peace, and got this sort of situation where he got the Sudeten, because he wanted the Sudetens as a problem to solve with a war. But, and not that he didn't want them in the German Reich, he did, but he mainly wanted his isolated war with Czechoslovakia and used them as a problem. So he was upset when Czechoslovakia gave in and gave the Sudetens. And since he claimed that that's all he was asking for, at least with, and I would have to regard, was that all that Hitler was asking for, or was all that was Hitler asking for regarding Czechoslovakia? Meaning, was he also wanting to get not just Danzig, but the Danzig corridor back too? So Hitler gives in, or Bernays gives in to Hitler and gets the Sudetenland. Now, here's where Hitler made his big mistake, is when he later, in early 39, occupies the rest of Czechoslovakia as a protective measure with the breakup of Slovakia and the occupations of this part here, this strip of land here by Hungary, and then this sort of tail end of Czechoslovakia by Hungary. Is that this was, and these happened in a couple of stages here, but as getting in Bohemia and Moravia and occupying it. That's where Hitler made his mistake. What he should have done is left these unoccupied, claiming that that's all he wanted. This, I'm talking strategic mistake. Obviously, I'm anti-Hitler, but just strategic mistake. And then, which he had already started to do, he was pushing for getting Memel back, these two provinces here, which he did peacefully. And they were, Memel City was, I would say, about a 60% majority German ethnic-speaking thing, where Danzig, I would say, was about an 80% ethnic German city at the time. Very, very wanted to join the Reich. Now, obviously, this little province here is the free city of Danzig, but what Hitler was also asking for wasn't just Danzig, which he could have had in a heartbeat just by having the local Danzigers rise up and then sort of come in to protect them. But what he was really looking for was to getting at least this land here back, or maybe all of the old Imperial German border back. But he was claiming that he needed this land here at least, this sort of Danzig corridor. Had he pushed for that to, again, justify a war with Poland, I think he would have gotten away with it, with Britain and France not coming into the war. Because if he hadn't taken more of Czechoslovakia, hadn't broken Czechoslovakia up yet, he would have got his Danzig corridor, he would have got his Danzig, or his Polish war, he would have split Poland with Soviet Union, got his occupied general government, that's sort of the occupied area here, is the general government. He would have gotten all that without a war with France and Britain. So then he could have waited until 42, when his navy, both the surface fleet and the sub fleet, was fully complete. Is a bad term, because obviously they would have kept growing, but would have been reasonably big enough. His armored divisions, instead of made up, because you got to realize most of the German tanks that invaded France were either Panzer Is or Panzer IIs, and they only had handfuls, bit more than they did for Poland, but limited numbers of Panzer IVs. Most good, I think about 60% of the tanks, and I'd have to look up the numbers, were Panzer Is and IIs. Panzer Is, very much so, was purely a training tank. The German army never saw the Panzer I, the Panzer forces, Panzer Is, as being a combat-ready vehicle. It just had some machine guns on them, just to sort of train up and get the ideas in their minds of how a, blitzkrieg is going to work. Panzer IIs, they might have been thinking as a reconnaissance vehicle, maybe, but really mostly meant to be a training tank. So they still were primarily equipped with their training vehicles when they went to war with France. Guderian, the main sort of driver of the theory of the panzer forces, Yeah, well, yes, they did acquire the 38. They captured a bunch of 35Ts, which basically had already. Well, they were still producing some for contract, I think, with Romania, and still more for it because they had already delivered some to Sweden. They captured those, and they just started to get the 38T into production. So that those, but those were not part of the big German production military plan. Those were sort of like, oops, we found these factories and these tanks, we might as well use them and keep producing them. And they were pretty good for what they were, Arno. You're absolutely right. But and that helps balance things, but that isn't part of the plan. So Guderian, again, who was designing the whole Panzer IV, the primary tank was meant to be the Panzer III, and meant he wanted it to have a 50 millimeter gun on it. The powers that be, along with the idea of there really wasn't a 50 millimeter gun ready at the time. Well, let's just do a 37 millimeter gun. So that's what happened, because Guderian wasn't that high of ranking for all of his influence within the Panzer Corps, and you can look at like oh man, I'm blanking on who some of the generals here that were like Kleist, I believe, von Kleist, and a few of the others were higher ranking within some of the structure, but it was really Guderian. I mean, he was a general, but they were higher ranking generals that were sort of a bit more. So he gets overruled in some cases. So that's what it's meant to be. And so even there, they weren't ready for the war. So you're absolutely right that Hitler, by his political actions, starts the war with France and Britain earlier than intended, not the war with Poland, because the war with Poland was set up between clearly between Hitler and Stalin, or Nazi Germany and the Soviets, however you want to say that, as a what to deal with Poland kind of thing. So that's very much a sort of mistake start of the Great War, if you will. And that was the plan. And had Germany waited, oh man, things would have been so different. Because if Germany could have started out with a massive submarine force, and at least a bit larger surface force, you know, had like a carrier, maybe two. Had a few more battleships. You know, actually had battleships ready. Not just 2 battleships in production, but have... How are my coastal battleships? Ooh, they've been beat up a little bit. Well, let's send you back to port. Let you get organized a little bit more. You're sort of weak. Mostly relying on air power there. Okay, let's keep pushing here. Trap those forces down there. Okay, now we've lost the effects, which is good. That's what we wanted to do. Though the way that whole thing is worded, people often get confused and think they're getting those effects when you lose them. Okay, amphibious unit training advanced, special operations. Yeah, we'll leave those to go. And commando. I think we are going to stop that. I want to make sure we're doing all of the armor plate thickness for the tanks. And nav tactics, naval air tactics here. Let's do fighter pilot. I want to keep the fighter pilots up, top notch. And it's taking a long time for them to get in there. Okay, well. Yes, gotta keep checking on. They're almost there. Good. They should attack there. Okay, good. India's doing all right. And how are we doing in Africa here? Don't think we'll support that attack there. Oh, good. Stop them from advancing. Very good. And biggest problem with a lot of this Indian uprising element is that they don't have supply. Okay, you guys advance, and so will you. Driving into Wales, driving up into northern England, we're doing good. And flying boat prototypes. Which will be grayed out, so don't even need to bother looking. Okay, we can do more of these tactics. That's what we could be also switching over to. Yes, more production, or more supply production. Finland's canceling its contracts with us. Well, Arno, I do have the latest one up. It went up yesterday for the Britain series, and you should watch it. Got some tips for maybe how to continuing it. You can look at the comment section. The Navy's still trapped up here. I've tried invading here and didn't do so well. So you can watch. I didn't play it live. The Hearts of Iron 4 series, but you can most assuredly check it out and see where we are. And I've only made one more that, or only made that one that I put up. I haven't made any more, so I don't really know where to go because my Navy's stuck. Without a Navy, Britain isn't going to do well. You don't need to go there, you can go over there. You can drive up into there. You move forward there. You're getting across the river. Good. Let's check to see how surrender progress for United Kingdom is doing. Ooh, they're down at 81% surrender progress. So we're crushing them. Now, where is their capital? Over here. Maybe Edinburgh. Sometimes it gets covered up. The symbol gets covered up by counters. You need to keep driving, and so do you. Yeah, you drive after that, and you attack the city. Not maybe the best thing for a panzer division, but still. You support it with the rocket artillery. Okay, uprising. No, we gotta shut that down. Now let's come this way because we'll do that better. Okay, naval bomber prototypes have advanced, which will be grayed out. So we will. Yes, we're already on the right page. Greece here. Armored car designs as well have advanced. And they are grayed out. Okay, good. Always good to have more of like these artillery flexibility. I don't think the Soviet peoples like how we're treating them. A lot of artillery, that should help take that. Uh-oh, we lost a Sturm scattered. These guys. They're good units, but they just, I guess, don't have the depth. I'll send you over here. Now, do we have somebody else that I should be? Oh, yes. Load up on board ship. This time we'll take you way up to here. Yes, Den Hubert, attack with your mountain troops. And landing craft flotillas have improved. Good. I think we'll stop that because we'll come down here and look for like defense and depth. So this is one thing that I really like better about Hearts of Iron 3 than 4 in its like current state is because you see here masterful delay and elastic defense. Those are, and I really quite honestly don't because you don't really have like controls over which one you pick or can be doing. But these are these things, of course, as most of you know. So, and it has, you know, there's a defender, he's doing shock, and it's countered by either ambush, and it counters delay. So these are doing delay, and it's being countered by shock. So it's the AI versus, and die rolls versus picking out these various tactics and counter tactics. Now, and those are similar things are done in Hearts of Iron 4 for its battles. But for them, and I don't know if they're planning on changing this or not. Again, one of these things I don't know. But is either you have the tactic or you don't have the tactic. Either you know how to do a masterful delay or an elastic defense, or you know how to do shock or support, or you know how to do reckless assault or masterful blitz or attack. You know, either you know the tactic or you don't know the tactic. I like the idea here where you can know the tactic, like the basic blitz as opposed to the masterful blitz. You know how to do a blitz, but you can get better with the blitz over time. You know, so I don't know, let's say you started out at 10%, but then you can gradually increase it 1% at a time or something. I like that better, because armies, and to me everything is how well it, in a war game like this, how well it matches reality. So armies, and it's not just does some guy, like whether it's like Guderian, you know, who's well known, or just some guy in an office somewhere coming up with a new tactic, or even a new technology. The research tab, it's getting that tactic and getting it out known generally to the Army or to the Navy or the Air Force. And for the technology, it's again not a scientist who knows how to do it in a scientific workshop. It's getting it out there practically, either onto an aircraft where there's like a radar system, or better landing wheels that you know are stronger and lighter so it doesn't disrupt the aircraft, whatever it might be, or you know, better armor for a tank. You know, and literally on the armor is better hardened, you know, alloys or surface hardening for the armor or whatever. It's not just do they know that technology in some laboratory, but getting it into place in the large-scale production structure, whether Germany, America, Britain, whoever, getting that out there. So that is what it's more than just one person. So I like that, but even like that will get better. The technologies over time, like extra wide tank tracks. I saved a really cool picture that somebody had collected some tank tracks, and what they gotten, I think it was 3 different German extra wide tank tracks that they'd gotten, and they were asymmetrical tank tracks, meaning they were either for the right or the left side of the vehicle, because normal tank track segments you can use for either side. But because what they were doing is extending to the side away from the tank, extending the tracks out further to spread out the ground pressure. And so this is obviously something that is done as oh shit, we've got to improve this. Either because we've now doubled the weight of the tank, so it's now heavier because we've stuck more armor on it, a bigger gun, and carrying more ammunition and all that kind of stuff. Either they've done that to the tank, or we're now running it over snow or the Russian mud or that type of terrain that they hadn't prepared for. So that's just like your basic level tank, extra wide tank track kind of thing. Where the Soviets, realizing that, hey, we're going to have tanks driving around in crummy, muddy conditions, let's just design the tank be able to have wider tracks on it, so you have the wheels further away from the body of the tank and that kind of thing. And so it's a design function, and so I like the idea that you can get better with it over time. And that's one thing I would like to see better or more implemented into Hearts of Iron 4. Well, I think this episode has gone on long enough. I want to thank everyone for watching, and thanks for liking the videos. Please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. I love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.